What an amazing moment that the city of Chicago is recognizing deeply how important artists are. How great a moment that cities that we thought we were second to or third to are losing their artists because artists want to be here instead. What an amazing time to be a maker when the territory for making is much more expanded than it's ever been. We are privileged to make. Right? And, you know, I have some slides. You know, I've done some things. But we at home, and I feel like we probably should take this 45 minutes, hour, to actually talk shop a little bit, that we might push things forward, because possibility is one thing, but then our willingness to have the courage necessary and devote the energy and focus necessary to turn possibility into things that actually live, sometimes in the face of tremendous opposition, requires real talk. That an MFA by itself or a BFA by itself just doesn't mean anything. And that what they're not teaching us in school, or what we're not learning, is that art is still about something that comes from our hearts, that it is not a business, and that if we treat it like a business and the business isn't working, we will stop making. Right? And that the best way to ensure a sustained art practice is to make because you believe in making. Right? And so I feel like the images that I'll show you, while they might have this name or that name, what you're looking at is an accumulated set of years of constantly looking at people saying, no, these things can't be done, and just acting naive enough that I would devote an unthinkable amount of time trying to figure out how to make these projects work. That today it sounds like a bunch of awards and an opportunity on a television show, but it was not always that. That I see my friends who were with me at Lil Street making pots in 2003 and 4, that I see my friends who were with me at the Hyde Park Arts Center when I had my show on Yamaguchi in 5, 6, 7, that I see friends that worked with me at the Transit Authority when I was just a bureaucrat and a potter as a hobby, that I see friends from the University of Chicago who are with me now, who have had to reckon with my seemingly zany ideas that remain uncomfortable for lots of people because they require not only imagination, but a tremendous amount of resource and a lot of hard thinking in ways that we don't think. And I've dealt with constant no's. No, that is not possible. No, that's not feasible. No, it's a waste of your time. No, it's an albatross. No, you're gonna burn out. And all of those things are true. And it requires that we dig deeper and harder than anyone else to make the things that we believe in happen. And so I keep thinking about possibility and miracles, right? And that maybe a miracle is something like belief plus work. That I learned very, very early on that that faith alone is dead, that faith without works, faith without action is nothing. And so for the South Side and the West Side, for our downtown, I have lots of hope, lots of faith, and then I'm still willing to roll my sleeves up very early in the morning and work till very late last night to have things manifest so that our city is much better than it was before I woke up. and that all of us, as artists, as bureaucrats, as architects, as thinkers, as people who love making and love this city, we all have the capacity to do a little bit more than we do. And that it's really just the willingness to do a little bit more than is necessary, a little bit more for those that are around you, just beyond the family, just beyond your cute little girlfriend or boyfriend, like just a little bit more. And that doing can happen in lots and lots of different ways. I'll show you some of the doing. It's so nice to be home, you know, and to just talk straight talk. I feel so comfortable here. Like I feel like I'm surrounded by it's like the clan, like it's like the good Klansmen, the good Klansmen. We spend this stuff a lot of different ways, like, you know, in the absence of museum opportunities, we make galleries in our apartments. We have temporary fairs. We have counter fairs to the major fairs. We invite each other over and we have crits. We try to make ways out of no ways. We figure it out because there are not enough large venues in this city for the amount of creativity that happens. What do you do when there's just one art museum, one museum of contemporary art, one Art Institute of Chicago? What do you do when there's only 3 or 4 galleries in the city that you might want to be affiliated with, 7 total? What do you do when it seems like the opportunities as it relates to venues are limited in our city? And I think that the impulse in Chicago has been right, that you make space. You make space, and sometimes the space you make doesn't conform to the way that we think buildings should be used, but you make space anyway. You say to yourself, if there are no galleries, I'm gonna make a gallery. The challenge that we have with the city is that we gotta figure out how that impulse is rewarded, not reprimanded, right? And so those are the kinds of conversations that I wanna have. If there's any value in a kind of leadership, if there's anything that I can do, it's to try to say yes more. That we should say yes more as makers, but also the principalities that govern our making have to be willing to say more. And if we are saying yes more things will happen, right? And so I think that in some ways, when I didn't have opportunities to show work in other places, I just kind of was like, all right, well, I'll dust off my living room and, you know, I'll put a work up and sing a song and, you know, invite a couple people out and see what happens. And that's what we've been doing on Dorchester. We've been cleaning up the buildings. The fact that they were abandoned, yeah, that's a beautifully poetic story, right? The fact that they're able to serve neighbors, amazingly wonderful, good community work. The impulse, the artistic impulse was that I didn't have a place to be an artist in my neighborhood, and I wanted to feel like an artist in my neighborhood. It was like, all right, well, what do I need to feel like an artist? I need some space to show art. I need some space to make art. I need some space where people can look at the art that I'm showing and making and be like, that's art. And I need a little place to drink every once in a while so we can ruminate on the possibilities of future artistic practices. That every neighborhood deserves that, right? But I shouldn't have to leave Grand Crossing to go to Skylark. Now, I could choose to go to Skylark, but going to Skylark should be a choice. I could choose to go to 694 on my elegant nights. I can walk down the street to Knightwood. I can kick it with my white homies at Maria's. But man, more people should know about Leo's Den. More people should know about Reds. You know, my spots, you know? President's Lounge, Monday nights, girls' night, hot pub, all the time, party. This was my original building. This is where I lived on the block. Lived there for 5 years, went to Harvard, came back. My kitchen was a little wobbly. There were termites that had infested the building probably some years ago, but it didn't really matter. When I came back from Harvard, I had been living for a year on floors that were very straight, and I noticed that my floors were very crooked. Had a little cash in my pocket, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna pull the joists out, I'm gonna rehab the building, redo the kitchen, I'll be fine. They pulled the joists out, and I was like, man, that's a really pretty volume. You can see where the joist pockets are. Yeah. Took them out. Around the same time, you know, Linda Johnson Rice had given me these books from Johnson Publishing. Thank you, Linda. Ashe, Ashe. Thank you, Linda. And I was determined to do really important things with these books immediately so that people wouldn't get mad at me for having this cultural legacy and not doing really smart things with it. And, you know, most of y'all have seen these buildings now, so I don't really want to talk a whole lot about them. But, you know, it's a $100,000 project to rehab the building, right? $100,000 ain't always easy to come by, but it's like that $100,000 is having tremendous symbolic impact. Like I decided, okay, I'm gonna try to make these buildings act like they're works of art. I'm gonna think about them as important monuments that live in the world, important monuments that symbolically can go out into the world and say that somebody cares in Grand Crossing. Now, maybe if I could do that enough, you know, if I can like play with a couple buildings, have a couple things happen in the buildings, invite a few people over to the building, outsiders, insiders, you know, a whole congregation and medley of people, that interesting things might happen and the world might imagine something else happening in Grand Crossing besides what they think happens in Grand Crossing. That it is, for me, a combination of things, that the real world is constantly informing what I make, that I accept it, that we're all being charged from the outside. But I feel like I want to have real responses sometimes and not just poetic responses. I don't want to paint a picture about a decayed bank. I don't want the bank to be decayed anymore. I don't want to take the last opportunity for an amazing historic building on Stony Island, and watch it pass, thinking that maybe there was something I could do. And today, I'm just less willing to say, man, somebody should do something about that. That's not good enough, y'all. That we have to be willing to pick up the phone and learn things that we don't know and call people and be a little bit uncomfortable so that the things that we believe in manifest the way we want them to. That it's not just, I'm gonna go on a limb and I'm gonna say it just can't be our studio practices. That if we're not willing to think about how we live in the world, we're not allowing the full measure of our potential as artists to be seen. And that the rest of the people in the world, they're not afraid. They'll do things with this bank that will have no benefit for you or for your kids. Honey, make it rain. She just gave me a $5 bill. That we have to be, and we have to be willing to figure out how to do these things together. And so in closing, when I look at us, I think that we are an amazing spiritual community, and we are also a sector. And that if we would spend a little bit time thinking about what our needs are together, we might be able to ask a bigger question of the city. We might be able to ask a bigger question of ourselves and what this city could be. But we have to be willing to fight for it and wake up early and talk to each other and try things that are much bigger than ourselves. Thank you.